to be Kevin Dan to kick off. Quite a wind blowing here at Leichhardt tonight. Flag. And so Kevin Dan it is who puts this second round qualifying match into motion, and Ken Wright retaliates immediately with a torpedo punt. The breeze behind him, and it's a very big kick, and Kevin Dan has all but made a meal of it. Dan, 12 metres his own side of the halfway, looking for the touchline, and away to a good start is he. That ball eventually finding touch just inside the South Sydney 22 after Ken Wright seemed to have ample time to take it. Then the ball did a dipsy doodle, and he came out of it with egg on his face. But Kevin Dan obviously picks up where he left off at Tweed Heads as our man of the match. And Penrith win the first scrum, and this very talented player with the ball is Warren Fenton. Play, centre field, just inside the South Sydney 22. Levy's the dummy half. That man is Lou Platts, a former teammate of Mark Levy's at Parramatta. Henry Foster's at dummy half. Of course, this side without the very talented Darryl Broman, who fractured that arm the last time we saw him in the KB Cup at Tweed Heads. Tim Sheen's to play it now. Playing it back to Roy Simmons. The man running with it is Brad Waugh, playing in number 11. Simmons at dummy half again. Now Levy through to Foster. Levy, as you well know, is a very adroit kicker of the ball, both with the grub kick and the bomb. Mario Fennick hooking for South tonight. His captain picking up a place in the city sides, and a penalty goes to South for feet across against the Panthers. It's always a mystery to me, without being super critical, how a referee adjudicates on an incorrect feed and feed across in the same scrum. To me, it was very apparent there that the incorrect feed had occurred. But Jack Tansey obviously spotted Penrith feed across the tunnel before the ball went in. This is Mario Fennick. A very fine line for the referee. 32 metres out from the South line. No score. Defending Cup champion South against a former Cup finalist Penrith. Peter Tunks in number 9 for South. 15 short of the halfway. Blindside there was Greg Mackey. And losing it in the tackle is Shane Arneal.
Picked it up very well, though, didn't he? And I thought Kenny Wade was just that yard too far back then, because Arneal did look for him and couldn't get the pass away.
Tim Sheen's to play it, about 6 metres on his own side of halfway. Jeff Prenter at quarter time. Brad Waugh now. Almost to the halfway mark. Here's Foster. Now Levy. This is Platts. And two rather small Rabbitohs in there trying to put him down. Craig Coleman and Shane Arneal needed the assistance of Gary Metcalf. Levy, a quick ball, but badly passed, really. It hit Fenton high on the shoulder. He did well to take it, but he was an easy prey for the defence of Hambley. The last for Penrith, and Sheens takes it ahead, a long floater through Jackson. He's picked up Pobji, who's put his foot on the line, and a scrum 9 metres on the Penrith side of the halfway. Next week at Leichhardt, following the annual City Country match next Saturday at Newcastle, we'll see the New South Wales countryside play their first qualifying round match against Cronulla Sutherland. And by the end of that night, we'll know which team joins Illawarra in being eliminated from the KB Cup this year. Currently, Canterbury are in the danger zone. They're on 21 points, a minus. Consequently, either Cronulla or NSW Country would have to be defeated by more than 21 to save Canterbury from elimination. Now this is Foster, and Fenton, a short ball and running hard. 9 metres away from the halfway, his own end of the ground. Foster, a nippy little player. But I note that in the last couple of weeks that he lost his spot And this is South with Arneil coming up with it. 5 minutes gone, no score. Brad Waugh, the tackler, in 11. Craig Coleman calling it, getting it to Hamley. Coleman only jockey size, but he's very nippy. And a penalty for being inside the 5. In fact, Stanzi caught Mark Levy and Henry Foster both. No score, 5 1/4 minutes gone, first quarter. Ken Wright shooting for touch, a nice kick, but he's got the breeze right behind him as he took that kick towards the hillside. Commonwealth Bank Cup match tonight. If you don't want to know the result, I'd advise you to turn your volume off in a couple of seconds' time. I know there are a lot of people waiting to know the result. If you don't want to know that result and you want to wait till Sunday to watch it on 10's World of League, then be my guest, but just turn your volume off for a few seconds. That's Mario Fennick, a few metres out from the Penrith line. Mackie calls it, that's him. Squadrito, the captain. Oh, that ball has been popped down. I thought for a moment he was going to give it to a player in an offside position. And so it's a scrum to go down. Now, the Commonwealth Bank Cup tonight saw Parramatta Marist play Lewisham Christian Brothers, and it was a resounding victory for the Parramatta Marist side. Here's Fenton. Now it's Levy. This man is Platts. Inside for Jackson. Further infield, Eddie Flay. Just a couple of metres outside the 22. No score. Waugh. Sheens. Cutting out Platts, picking up Wolf, but it's gone over his shoulder. And it'll be, well, he's ruled play on. Platts. Match 7 minutes old. This is Sheens. And that's Foster. Back to Sheens. And now to Levy. Now to Fenton. A nice pick-up by Rod Wright out in the centres, giving Eddie Flay a chance to set up his winger Pobji. Loftus comes across in cover. Easily beaten by Pobji, but Kevin Dan got himself into an offside position. Yes, and that was bad luck for Penrith because there was some great lead-up work there. Very difficult to predict the likely winner of this clash. Quite a few star players out, of course, some through injury, some through representative commitments. But both teams look particularly evenly matched in this opening 8 minutes or so, particularly in the forwards, and I think much of the play is going to revolve around the two packs. So it's Penrith firmly on the attack, and Warren Fenton pulled down by Arneil and by Mackie. 4 scrums to 0 in favour of Penrith. Here's Pobji working off his left wing onto the right side of the field. The dummy half is Simmons. Right is Foster. This man coming up hard, Brad Waugh in 11 with the ball. Players 15 out from the south line, and they've lost the ball, Penrith. So taking it away is Dean Rampling, the brother of Tony, who picked up his first representative cap in the Sydney sides for this weekend. Gary Metcalf. Play just inside the 22. You'll recall last year, Tooth and Company ran a competition worth thousands and thousands of dollars. It was very successful. TV Ticker Box. Well, that starts on television next week. A draw will be done at the first quarter break of each KB Cup match between now and the night of the second semi-final on August 4. And entries should be lodged now. I'll give you further details right through the night. Undoubtedly, a lot of you would know about it through the very big press campaign that Tooth and Company has already undertaken. Tell you more about TV Ticker Box 1982 during the night. Now that's Coleman, and this is Rampling. 2 metres, south side of halfway. Nothing, the scoreline. 10 minutes gone, first quarter. Coleman again. That's Tunks. Very obvious that both these clubs want this KB Cup pot of gold. Coming fast is the winger Brown. Oh, and Greg Mackey went within an ace of pulling off what could have been a very spectacular try.
Yes, and a very clever chip over the top from young Coleman. He placed it perfectly right between, just in front of Kevin Dane, who had no opportunity to get into the ball on the full. He wasn't favoured by the bounce, and it was a terrible position for a fullback to be in. And young Mackie just failed to pull it down. It would have been a spectacular try.
Big news for South and Cronulla supporters and for league supporters generally. I recall on the 4 days that followed last year's Tooth Cup final, we were besieged with requests for a replay of the South Cronulla Tooth Cup final. That will go to air for its first replay, or its second replay, in fact, if you like to count the first one on last August 12. That is going on Sunday morning in 10's World of League, following Parramatta Marist and Lewisham Christian Brothers. The Tooth Cup final from 81, South and Cronulla, will be on your screen Sunday mornings, and it should be a beauty for you to sit back and enjoy one of rugby league's highlight areas in the last 10 years. This scrum is 5 metres Penrith side of halfway in front of the Latcham Robinson stand. It's a Penrith ball. Well, Fenton gave what appeared to be a nonchalant cross kick, Kevin Keegan type thing across to Mark Levy, but it was pounced on by this little fellow around the scrums called Craig Coleman. That little fellow there on the left of your screen in 7. And a differential to South. City Country Saturday and then Sydney on Sunday is blessed with a smorgasbord of top league action. This team, South, play Manly in what should be a blockbuster. West play St George at Cogra. I'll be broadcasting on radio the KY 2KY match. I'm doing the Parramatta Cronulla match. But there is a feast of top league on Sunday. This man is Tunks playing it in front of the uprights. He's only 20 metres out, centre ground. Stewart. Not Stewart, but Fennick. A switch was on, but nobody running. And Coleman was obliged to take it himself. Now they're 8 metres out, or just a fraction further than that, I should say. To Mackie and to Wright. A grub kick for the corner. Squadrito chases.
And South certainly not afraid to use that little chip. We saw Coleman put the little one over the top. Now we saw Kenny Wright put the little one through. Obviously they're appreciating the tightness of the Penrith defence and feel that the best way to break them up and to turn them around is with that little chip over the top or through.
The Marty Gurr grub, I call it.
It's a very good attacking ploy, though, used correctly, isn't it?
I don't think there's a better exponent of it than Marty Gurr, the Eastern Suburbs fullback, 5/8. Royce Simmons now playing it just beyond his 22. Still no score. This match being played with the determination of a cup final. As everyone would know, Souths have been well advertised as having financial problems. There are rumours that South Juniors will take over South Seniors. Terry Parker and I think John Reardon and Nicola Nielsen are pretty adamant that won't happen. But whichever way you look at it, South want the $111,000 first prize money from the KB Cup. And, of course, so too do the Panthers.
Well, I know a lot of other clubs that do too.
Well, that's right. Although over the last few weeks there have been certain suggestions that some clubs still don't treat the midweek football the way it probably should be.
Yeah, that's probably a bit unfair. I think everyone's aware of the importance of the cup.
This is Brad Wall playing it. And now Tim Sheens. Platt's coming on the run, but Simmons gets a pass to Fenton. And now Foster and Platts. Not a bad crowd here tonight. You know, we often get letters from people saying there doesn't appear to be anybody there, and that's probably right. Our cameras are shooting away from the stand area. Here's a chance for Penrith as Sheens gives Mark Levy an open gate to run through, and he's in. Yes, Levy scores the first try of the match. Good stuff from the Panthers, with Mark Levy picking up a beaut try. Here's the replay.
But all the work was done by Sheens, wasn't it? He really probed through that opening in the South Sydney defence, and Levy showed surprising pace. He really got away. He got along the ground very, very quickly then. It was a try that certainly set Penrith alight, but that was a very ineffective tackle there from the South Sydney defender and allowed Sheens into the gap. Levy anticipated well, didn't he? And you see him running away from the South Sydney winger Brown. Very good try.
Well, full marks must go to Brad Waugh, the prop forward, who I've said before is a veteran of some 260-odd matches. And Tim, I'm almost certain, has been there since Penrith entered the top grade. It would seem that long anyway. There he is there in 13. He'll be tickled pink with that. He was graded from St Dominic's at Penrith back in 1970 and has played 256 games for the club. So here is Kevin Dan. He's missed it. And it's 3-0. The KB Cup scoreline in favour of Penrith with almost 16 minutes gone. I was talking about the Latcham Robinson stand. That's where it is, and our counter shoot mainly away from it to the field, but there's a shot coming back into it to emphasise that the grandstand itself is fairly well occupied each and every Wednesday night. Rod Wright. And now Jackson, the blonde-headed second rower. They seem to breed blonde-headed second rowers at Penrith, as Lou Zavanovic being the more famous of them. So Lee, a cross kick which will bounce high, but Wright's across for it. And this former Wallaby international, who's having a good season with South. Playing it now, 15, his own side of the halfway. And that's Shane Arneal now. A knock on. 3 minutes to go to the first quarter break. And this touch judge going in to make a report about an incident that apparently involved Eddie Flay, who's walking over. Tonight's match will earn for the winners the second round prize money of $8,000 and a guaranteed quarterfinal spot, since, as I said, both teams were first round winners, and the loser tonight to receive $2,000. Now here's Greg Mackey, who missed the tackle on Sheens, and when you see that picture of Greg holding the ball now, he's only, well, he's a David by comparison with Sheens, who's a monster of a man. And there's the little man that tried to tackle him but missed him, and the try resulted for Mark Levy. We've got the golden tries to run for you, the nominated tries from last Wednesday at the quarter-time break. I'll show them to you in about 2 minutes from now. I do want to say one thing to you, though. The judges will be asked... Oh, good work by Hambley. That's Arneal reeling out of a couple of tackles, and oh, he's dropped the ball, looking for support to arrive. A scrum will go down 10 metres out from the uprights. There's one try you're not going to see in the golden tries nominated. That's the John Rebo try where the corner post appeared to be taken by somebody. That will also go to the screening for the judges to determine whether they thought it was a try or it was a no try. So I want you to know that that will also be going through to the cut-off of golden tries. So we're coming up now with 90 seconds to the first break. 3-0 the Panthers. This man is Brad Waugh. Now Sheens round the corner for Platts, but the former Queensland international standing flat-footed, and he'll play it now on the 22 line. Foster to the right, and he's put it down. That's a bad loss for Penrith possession-wise, and a very good chance for South to equal up before the break. This is Arneal, and they're inside the 22 line for Coleman. Now to Mackey. He steps and stutters and tries to go around Levy, but the Penrith 5'8" contains him. Now it's back for Squadrito to shape as though he's going to kick, and then takes the tackle. They've only got about 15 seconds to do something. Peter Tunks is going to take it up for probably the last. They still haven't gone anywhere, South. The Penrith defence is very good at the moment. That bomb off the boot of Squadrito may have found a couple of South players offside. Dan has put it down. Brown has got the ball, and I think he's in for a South Sydney try. He is. It's a try to South, scored by Stan Brown off the Squadrito bomb. Now, obviously, Jack Danzy can't see them all, and neither can commentators or viewers, but I'm just going to watch this wing three-quarter as Dan goes for it. He put it down. That means play on, and it would seem a bona fide three-pointer scored by the wing three-quarter Stan Brown, who was brought on as a replacement last Saturday against the Saints. There were a couple of players offside, but you'll note that they don't get inside the 5. Dan goes for it, and he makes a meal of it. Now it's play on, and here's the wing three-quarter standing there in the right position at the right time, and a try. So the attempted conversion from Ken Wright is successful, and Souths go to the break. Incidentally, one of the controversial Rebo tries is one of it, leading 5-3, and I would think, not having had a chance to talk to Keith, but I'll put it to him now, that coach John Peard would be very disappointed that they didn't retain a 3-0 lead into that first break.
Yes, and Kevin Dan was at fault, wasn't he? He went up very, very early for that high bomb and misjudged it completely. But yes, I thought Penrith were marginally the better side in that first 20 minutes, but of course they had all the possession, and this is Billy Anderson's major problem, is how he's going to get reasonable possession from the scrums. Obviously, he has to utilise the this breeze, and we've got, obviously, they've got a couple of good tactical kickers there. We've seen Kenny Wright come in from behind, and on that occasion we saw young Mackie gain 40 yards with a very clever kick. But possession from the scrums now is what Souths have to get.
Scrum count at quarter time, 5-2 Penrith. Penalties, 4-2 to South. This scrum, well, Mario Fenix got an arm down in the scrum, but the penalty goes anyway to South. So we've discussed that point earlier, how a referee probably has got 2 and sometimes 3 things to choose from if he's handing out penalties from the scrums. And as you can see on many occasions, it's just a simple fact of scrums not binding as per the book that creates so many of these penalties. Here's Tim Sheens playing it inside the 22 line. Lou Platts, who I thought had a pretty quiet first 20 minutes by comparison with, shall I say, less illustrious players such as Tim Sheens and Brad Waugh.
I thought he just got across the field a little bit too much. He's the one, obviously, that's going to be probing on the edge of the ruck, but he just got a little bit across the field for my liking in that first 20 minutes.
Now to play it is the 5'8" Mark Levy, try scorer. He scored in the 17th minute. Here's Platts now. His dad was at Tweed Heads to see his son play a major role in the victory over Parramatta. And they both had very broad grins on their faces at the end of that. The bomb for Penrith, a chance for the Panthers. Rod Wright's got the ball as he's put it down behind. And it's been forced, I do think, by South Sydney. And referee Danzy is going to order a line dropout, which indicates that's what happened. Captain Joe Squadrito coming up with it. Looking through this South Sydney side, my goodness, they look to be a small bunch. Bringing it back now is Ken Wolf. Oh. And almost going right through. Here's Foster. Brad Waugh. Simmons to play it. 5 meters out. Levy. Cross kick bomb. Interesting one, taken well by Peter Tunks. He's saved again for South. And another line dropout.
Yes, well, Mark Levy's going to be utilising that high bomb, isn't he? And placed very cleverly there across the South Sydney goal mouth. Got very good control of his kicking game, Mark Levy, and very successful with Parramatta as well a few years ago. So certainly that's going to be a very important tactic as far as Penrith are concerned. I was surprised with the ease with which Kevin Wolfe went through the South Sydney defence too, and Billy Anderson certainly wouldn't be happy with their opening 5 minutes in this second quarter.
Platts. Platts! A metre short.
Good tackle by Loftus then.
Foster to dummy half. Brad Waugh shows it. Still a metre out. 5-3, the Rabbits leading. And I do believe they're across, but maybe held up or forced back. Have they been? Yes, forced back is Roy Simmons. Taps it forward, and it's South's ball.
Gee, they've got out of jail on 2 occasions, haven't they, now, South Sydney? First, of course, from the bomb from Mark Levy, and then on that occasion when Simmons almost get it over the line. Imagine that South Sydney now will take a couple of the play the balls just to settle their side down, and then get Kenny Wright in there or Mackie and get the play down into Penrith territory. Well, there it was, good veto. Kevin Bain.
So this scrum going down midway between the 22 and halfway on Penrith's end of the ground. Foster. And that'll be another knock on. So this scrum will go down again about 10 metres on the Penrith side of the halfway mark. Well, Billy Anderson, you must have been happy to come out at the quarter-time break with a 2-point advantage.
Yeah, it was good, Ray. As you saw, we score right on the bell, but we're having a bit of a trouble getting the ball from scrums at the moment.
I'll just bring you up to date on our count, Bill. We've got 6-2 to Penrith.
Well, I'm sure that'll be right, but we're having a bit of a trouble. I can't say we're falling down. We've got a fairly strong pack of forwards in there.
Bill, it is a show of depth at South Sydney with which you must be very happy with 7 players out of this side tonight.
Yes, we've got a lot of good young fellows in our club, Ray, and I think that they've got a good football future ahead of them.
Rampling playing it, 10 metres out. Fennick runs it. Dean Rampling, still a couple of metres from that Penrith line. Coleman, Mackie, the run round. Back for Metcalf to take it back towards the corner. Still about 10 metres out. Here's Mackie. And Coleman's pass was a beauty, really, but Arneal seemingly wasn't watching what the inside back was able to do for him. Here's Rod Wright now. Here's Foster. Now Brad Waugh. Sheens. Rod Wright. Eddie Flay. Kevin Dan to clear. And it'll be Brown, the try scorer, to bring it back now. That's the halfway line. You see just disappearing to the left of your screen. And there it is now. It's a Squadrito. South a penalty with the breeze at their backs. I'm just wondering if they've got a goal kicker who'd have that much range. I doubt it. Ken Wright coming over to try and find the line just outside the Penrith 22. Finnick will take the tap. And from Coleman, it's gone to Rampling to be tackled right on the 22 mark. Souths leading 5-3. Gary Hambling. Hambley tackled just inside the 22, right in front of the uprights. Here's Coleman, now Mackie, and Peter Tunks has put it to ground. He's trying to make a knock-on of it. And let's watch and see what... Put down by Sheens. Just a scrappy passage of play here. War right on the 22 line. And Platts now out from the quarter, and probably paying the penalty for not coming onto it on the burst. Foster, Fenton. Good tackle that by Gary Metcalf, jolting the Penrith utility man back. And now it's with Tim Sheens, the man who made that first try for Mark Levy. This is Kevin Pobji, taken by Ken Wright. And this scrum to go down 12 metres away from the Penrith 22. 10 minutes of the second quarter remaining. Next Sunday on Channel 10's World of Rugby League, we'll be kicking off at 8:30, of course, with the replay of the Commonwealth Bank Cup match played earlier tonight between Parramatta Marist High and Christian Brothers Lewisham. And I'm fairly certain you'll agree that you're going to see a fairly good side, probably one of the top 4 sides in this year's Commonwealth Bank Cup. At half-time, in just 10 minutes from now, I'll be talking to Jeff Printer about the upcoming Kangaroo Tour, with the first rep matches of the year coming up this Saturday. Sheens turning it inside to Platts. And now it's Brad Waugh looking, finding that, well, what he'd found was a vacancy of people prepared to run onto the ball. And
actually, he's not finding anything, is it? Penrith's very flat at the moment. There's no depth in their attack. They're coming onto it, you know, they're standing there flat-footed, looking for someone to create an opportunity. But at least on that occasion, Waugh was there. He created the opening, but certainly no support. And Penrith not very impressive at this stage.
Put down. Well, he's ordered 6 more tackles. From here, it looked like the ball came from Squadrito's hands and went forward. But I think what Jack Danzy has indicated, and he did nullify the tackle count, so quite obviously it was deflected by a Penrith player into that position. And here's this little halfback just being ankle tapped. And it was just as well that he was. Here's Peter Tunks. Coleman. That's Metcalf. Coleman again. Foster's save for Penrith. And a Penrith penalty. So now Mark Levy to take this penalty for line. $18 metres out from his own line.
Fenton, the Penrith lock forward, is probably the only one that's putting any real effort into his attacking play, and certainly as far as the forwards are concerned anyhow, but they're making good inroads in the backs.
Rob Wright making a fine break. And a scrum to go down. Yes. Almost 30 metres out from the South Sydney line.
It certainly was a fine break, but he just took too long to look for Podgy, who'd cut back on the inside of him. And I thought if he had have looked, the opportunity was there. Podgy obviously was screaming for the ball and was disappointed that Wright didn't give it to him.
A Penrith ball coming out of this scrum, or I thought it was going to. There it is now for Podgy. And he's tackled about 32 metres out from the South Sydney line. Fenton is the number 8 at dummy half. Through Foster to Levy to Flay, and now here's Dan coming in from full back. I thought he was going to make the extra man, but then I looked back and saw that Rod Wright was on his haunches back in the full back position, obviously stung by that previous tackle. It's Ken Wolfe. Well, he's been picked up by a player from an offside position, certainly. That player was Squadrito, the South Sydney skipper, obviously feeling that if he didn't do that, there's a chance that Penrith may have gone on to score. Levy finding touch, just a little nudge over the touchline.
He certainly didn't lose anything at all, did he? Because Levy didn't get any round, and Souths have got their defensive formation well set now.
Here's Sheens working it with Simmons. Nuggety, busy, hooker forward. And Danzy has now decided to put a scrum down. Simmons said something to Peter Tunks. It wasn't a complimentary remark, let me tell you. South leading by 2. 5 minutes to the break, and here's a differential to Penrith. That's an incorrect feed by young Coleman.
Well, Coleman becoming frustrated, of course. Penrith leading in the scrums 8-4, a 2-1 majority, and obviously Coleman was frustrated in a situation like that, took the gamble but didn't come off.
Scrums 8-4 to Penrith. That's what's worrying Bill Anderson more than anything else at the moment. Penalties have levelled out at 6-all. 5-3 the scoreline. Penrith with a good chance. Simmons calling on Sheen. Sheens has put it down, and it's been dived on by South, but they too have knocked on. It's been 4 differentials against South, 2 against the Panthers. And Penrith again coming up with the scrum win. Foster proving a hard target out there, no marker. And he fell over after playing the ball. So running with it is Lou Platts. He must be almost across. He's popped a pass down. Foster's still there with him, but he's been unable to ground it. And it will be a 5-metre scrum. To be fed by Coleman. And there's a relieving sight for South Sydney supporters to see Fennick come up with his 5th scrum win, as opposed to 9 for Penrith's Roy Simmons. Metcalf bursting up in the centre, a few metres inside the 22, the big man. Tackled is Brown, the wing 3/4. Three minutes from half-time. Wright drops it onto the left foot. Going through with it, putting the ball onside. And in fact made the tackle with the assistance of Shane Arneal. Ken Wolfe. Out to Fenton, now to Levy, here's Wright. 3-man tackle, including Dean Rampling. They'll want to get off him shortly. Here's Platts. Back into the ruck. 12 metres away from the 22 line. Ground camera picking up Levy as he Platts as he plays it. And that's Tim Sheens getting a pass back to Foster, a desperation pass. The Panthers, to their advantage, will come around in the 3rd and 4th quarters with the advantage of quite a strong breeze. This is Jackson in number 10. And that's the end of 6 for another scrum to pack down. Sunday morning repeating, we'll be replaying last year's Tooth Cup final between Souths and Cronulla. The night that all records were shattered at Leichhardt. A magnificent spectacle which hasn't been replayed before. And if you missed it live on that particular night, then a chance for you to see it Sunday morning. It'll start about 9:30 following the Commonwealth Bank Cup, all part of 10's World of League. We'll have our Sunday afternoon league preview. And on Sunday morning, Julia Shepherd, who breathes a touch of fresh life and certainly a touch of the more attractive into our rugby league coverage talks with Glenn Mortimer, the fourth of the brothers, who at the moment is nursing that broken jaw. The interview was recorded, I must admit, prior to Glenn suffering that injury. Out to Foster. A dummy by Sheens and given back to Foster. Rod Wright. There's a doubtful pass in there. Danzy's got it.
She was unlucky though, wasn't it? Because it was a very well rehearsed move, and Ed almost came off. It would have been a really top class try. Wright really came through on the boil, and Foster, they worked the run around, and it was just unfortunate that he did position himself a yard or so in front of Foster. But it would have been a super try.
Ken Wright torpedoing for that touchline. That's about the last advantage of the breeze he'll be seeing tonight, Ken Wright. He's having a big season, that man on camera. Wallaby International, and fitting right into the Bill Anderson plan for South in 1982.
Yes, well, South are going to have plenty of problems, I think, in this second half, now the third and fourth quarters, particularly if they're unable to get any more possession than what they are getting, because Penrith with Levy and Kevin Dane, two very fine tactical kickers, they'll be belting the ball down into South's territory, and I don't know whether South Sydney have got the power in their side now to get themselves out of trouble, even though they're leading 5 points to 3 at this stage.
Is Mackey on a good run over the halfway, and there's the half-time siren sounding in the background. So at half-time, South Sydney continue the third quarter, and this time it's the Rabbitohs from right to left, leading by 5 points to 3. Just a quick look through the two sides. I can't see any changes. Kevin Dan making that good run.
It was a good tackle by young Coleman too, otherwise Dan was really in the clear.
Dummy half is Jackson. Play is up towards the halfway with Platts. Away from Mackey. That's the second time he's been badly beaten by a forward. Although when you compare his size with theirs, it's pretty understandable. Brad Ward trying to get that round the corner pass working to no avail, and turning attack into defence for them. Mario Fennick playing it. That's the halfway line. And now it's with Coleman. This is Metcalf. Hambley. I don't know whether you at home have noticed that dummy half now just passing the ball. Fennick from a distance. He bears a remarkable similarity to the man he replaces, Ken Stewart. A chip by Coleman, and well taken by Jackson, the Penrith second rower, immediately tackled by Loftus and by Mackey. And now it's Pobji. That black line is 10 metres from the halfway. And running blind is Sheens. Inside for Levy. Still about 8 metres short of the halfway is Penrith. The breeze at their backs for the third and fourth quarters. Platts. Dummy half Royce Simmons. Left for Foster. Further left now for Sheens to pop it down to Fenton. And beautifully taken there by Greg Mackey. This is the last for the Panthers. Dan into the line. A chip onto his right foot. Danzy said, I saw the incident after the kick. Play on, though. This is Brown. Tackled by Jackson. Well, that's rather surprising. You've got a winger rounded up, it appeared, easily by that man making the same tackle again, Jackson. Coleman. Just no backs at all there for South now. Simpkins takes it to ground. And Fennick is the dummy half. Chance for Penrith that they put it on the boot, but saved by South Sydney and by their halfback. Correction. By their captain, Squadrito. Peter Tunks. South seem to be doing it hard tonight. There's not that cohesion, that understanding that we've seen from them as they've placed themselves firmly second in the table. Ken Wolfe. Around Arneal. Taken by Metcalf. 10 metres short of the halfway. Centre ground. Left for Flay. Former Parramatta player. And so here it is coming for Foster. Brad Waugh. Mark Levy's kick rebounding off a South player. Played by Robert Simpkins. Dean Rampling takes to ground. Just looking at Mario Fennick through the binoculars, he must have sustained a cut earlier in the match to the scalp. We'll try and get a close-up of him so you can see what I'm talking about shortly, but Mario's playing in 12 for South, and what bleeding there has been has now congealed, if you like, and it's not flowing quite obviously the way it was earlier. Here's Coleman now, taken by 2 Penrith defenders. John Peard is listening to the commentary. Are you happy, John, at the moment with this 5-3 lead, or this 5-3 deficit with the breeze behind you?
Well, we have had some chances, and unfortunately we didn't make the most of them at the time when it could have been handy early in the game.
I said to Keith earlier, John, that you would have been, I would think, rather cranky that they let a 3-0 lead become a 5-3 deficit with just 60 seconds remaining before the first quarter break.
That's right, yes. With a minute to go, was a costly error, wasn't it, to drop the ball?
Can you tell me briefly what you said to them at half-time, John?
Well, I just think the game's ready to be taken, you know, by the side that can show a little bit more enthusiasm with the ball and not make the errors like we're making at the moment.
Souths seem to lack that machine-like precision that's been in their game mostly through this year with so many players out, John.
Yeah, well, we haven't fared the best with players either.
That is true, but by the same token, that understanding seems to be lacking in the Rabbitoh attack.
Well, I don't think they're playing any different to how I thought they'd play, regardless of who they put in.
Well, John, thanks for talking to me.
Righto, thank you.
Rampling putting the ball down for South, picked up by Fenton. 11 metres on the Penrith side of the halfway. This is Tim Sheens. A pop to Flay, and then Levy arrived too late. Perfect example of a failure of a team to support the man with the ball at all times. Lou Platts now. 6 metres into South territory. Sheens has been doing some good work. Wolf giving Dan a chance to run to the 22. Bouncing up quickly to be tackled again 20 metres out. Penrith now have got a very deep back line, if we can see it quickly on the wide shot. It's so deep that it stretches well back to the halfway line. And a chance here for Greg Mackey. It'll be interesting to see which way Danzy rules. He'll say play on now. And 6 more tackles as Rod Wright turns a brief period of defence into attack. Fenton, held by Metcalf. Podgy is standing at the moment. Well, he's going into dummy half, and this will be a penalty to South. Danzy indicating that the ball was to be played, and his instruction was disobeyed. So the penalty for Wright, kicking into the breeze now in the second half of the match. Still a good gain of some probably 30 metres. 11-6 the scrums to Penrith, so still they enjoy a major credit in the scrums. Coleman, Hambley. Doesn't take a backward step for anybody, Gary Hambley. He repped last year, I think it was, for Hambley. He repped. Metcalf takes it up. 1980 it was, the first cap for Hambley. Then I think he had injury last year. Simpkins now playing it from Emmaville in the northwest or New England of New South Wales, the same place from where the Emmaville Express, Debbie Wells comes from. Mackie stepping off his right foot, running into a tackle that was a touch high. Last for Souths, to the right for Squadrito, to step. I thought into a gap, but Levy closed it very quickly. A good game of football coming up for you next Wednesday in the Schoolboys Commonwealth Bank Cup, which kicks off, by the way, at 5:45. A lot of people delight in how well these boys play, and they watch it on television of a Sunday morning, I'm sure. A lot of people, in fact, have said, why don't they play the kids first and the big bloke second on television? Which is, at times, a fair comment. But next Wednesday night, if you'd like to see the boys in action, you'll be watching current cup holders Holy Cross Ride playing a schoolboys side that currently is receiving rave reviews. I'm talking about Benilde High of Bankstown. That's the curtain raiser at 5:45 to New South Wales Country and Cronulla. Simmons getting rid of it, and he's penalised him for intentionally forward. No, he's
called him to play it.
He's called on him to play it.
Well, that was a similar ruling to his last one, obviously, but it probably came a little bit quicker than normal on that occasion, because Simmons didn't appear to be held for too long, and Penrith were in a situation where they were looking to attack.
Well, so of course he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to have called held. There's obviously, if he does call held, that's it. But if a player's progress has been effectively halted and he cannot pass the ball, then that is also deemed to be a tackle, yes, even if the referee doesn't call held. And I'm not sure that Danzy called held on that occasion, but apparently Royce Simmons decided that he was off and running, and that's why you're watching Ken Wright place this ball 12 metres into Penrith territory, into the breeze, in centre ground. A chance to go 7-3. It's got height and length, but it's just wide. And back to the 22 for the dropout to restart. Danny Loftus, who, to my way of thinking, has had a fairly quiet game tonight. He's now permanently domiciled in the South top grade. When you look at the scrum count, that probably is the reason we haven't seen much of Loftus, but still, I thought he could have injected himself more into this match. A lot of reserves and third graders in the side.
Well, Souths are continuing to play their big forwards off their halfback, Coleman and Mackie, aren't they? We haven't seen too much of Simpkins, and we certainly haven't seen anything of Squadrito. They are persisting with the likes of Hambley, Tunks, Metcalf and Rampling, and to a lesser extent Fennick going from dummy half. But at this stage, anyhow, they've been well contained by the Penrith defence, and Penrith can consider themselves unlucky to be trailing by 5 points to 3. They've pressured the South Sydney line on many occasions and gone close to scoring at least 3, haven't they?
Coleman. Metcalf. Good work by Metcalf. Rampling getting it down for Arneal to give it off to Brown. Inside the 22, defence converging. Oh, he beat Kevin Dan and got a pass infield, but I think he's dropped it. Loftus. Loftus has put it down across the line. Oh, that would have been a beautiful try.
Yes, but what a beautiful run by Brown. He showed good acceleration, a good change of pace to get outside his winger on the first occasion, and good ball sense, of course, to get it back inside, and Loftus probably should have taken that pass.
So, back to the 22 for the place kick restart. And that was a magic piece of football there by South. Probably deserving of a try. 5-3, South still lead. People seem to be saying that Penrith are going to win this match, even though they're behind by 2 points. But against that line of thought, they're still back by 2. They've still got that big breeze at their backs. When are they going to hit the front? Maybe never. Foster turning it blindside. They've put it down.
Well, they're never going to hit the front if they continue to make handling errors like that, and that's probably been their biggest fault throughout the game, is their inability to control the ball.
South and Cronulla, last year's Tooth Cup final for you in replay Sunday morning as part of 10's World of League. Plus, of course, Parramatta Marist and Lewisham Christian Brothers. The Souths win a scrum. Wright is tackled. Midway 22 halfway. Penrith end of the ground. This man is Shane Arneal. Dummy half Mario Fennick. And that's Dean Rampling taking it ahead. Fennick back for Coleman to switch it to the right for Loftus. A cordon around him. And that's the 22 line across the top left of screen. Tunks right in centre ground now. Still a few tackles left, maybe 2, I would think. Coleman, Loftus injecting himself into the play in the last 3 minutes. Coleman and Simpkins takes it to ground just inside the 22. Some good league coming up in Queensland this weekend, and repeating, as I said, a tremendous bill of fare here in Sydney, with Souths and Manly at Redfern, Parramatta and Cronulla at Belmore, West St George at Cogra. Those 3 heading a magnificent weekend of league, on top of the New South Wales country city clashes at the Newcastle Sports Ground. Dean Rampling, about 7 metres out. There's been no addition to the scoreline since the 19th minute. Mackie, picked up by Tunks. Hambley's dummy half, nobody on the left of the ground. They're getting there now. 5 tackles used up by Souths, and not any one of them, I would say, done with any organisation. Wright, the drop goal, charged down by Penrith, regained by Wright, and 6 more tackles. So another chance for the Rabbits. 6 more chances. This is the first. Peter Tunks, 5 metres out. They may try the bomb. They've tried just about everything else. Greg Mackie taken by Wolf. Still very close, as you can see, to the Penrith line. Squadrito. Now they're more towards centre ground, and Ken Wright may well try another drop goal, or they may put up the bomb. Fennick back for Coleman, working it in for Loftus, out to Squadrito, and he's down 9 metres out. Ken Wright is getting in behind the play. He's an exponent of the drop goal. Rampling getting a pass down for Mackie, and he's tackled. The end of 6.
South's controlling the ball a lot better now, and obviously this is enabling them to put more pressure on the Penrith defence, and this facet of their play is probably the best form that they have produced in the 57 minutes so far.
What does come out of this scoreline, and I'm supposing that there's not going to be anything in this match at full time, both sides could very well make the quarterfinals.
Here's Kevin Dan now. Outside the 40, Podgy passed to a South player, and Loftus has come up with it for the Rabbitohs.
So Penrith, it seems every time they get the ball on the first or second tackle, they seem to turn it down in this 3rd quarter anyway.
Yes, I'm just wondering if there's a little bit of panic coming into their game, because they've had the opportunities, they've dominated possession, but they haven't been able to put points on the board apart from that early try.
Arneal.
And maybe someone like Mark Levy and Sheens, who are both very experienced players, have got to take over now and get the ball down into South territory, play a bit of percentage football for a while, and get some pressure on this South Sydney defence.
Fennick playing it, 12 metres on Penrith's side of halfway. Coleman, second man movement. That was Dean Rampling running as the second man. Last tackle for the Rabbits, right to kick now. There he is. The high bomb. From an unorthodox position on the field, you might think, but if you watch the Parramatta plays, that's basically what Jack Gibson's got them doing all the time these days. Podgy. Running it as Wolf. 10 metres short of the halfway mark. And still South lead by 5-3. 2 minutes from the 3rd break. Platts. Quite easily get a job on on stage at the Old Tiv with that expertise in juggling. Foster. A switch of play for Platts to go to the right and give it to Fenton. A beautiful fend and a lovely step. And he's still going. He's 25 metres into South territory. Pobji chased by Ken Wright. Oh, and caught and dropped it. A scrum to go down 12 metres away from the South Sydney line. Well, Kenny Wright, you may well have ensured a quarter-final spot for the defending Cup champions with that tackle. Can we see it again? Players injured and a slight delay. Mario Fennick is down for South, but that was a magnificent chase by Ken Wright. But watch Fenton. A brilliant piece of football by this man who is so grossly underrated. He beat at least 4 of them. He then took Loftus's tackle. Pobji was chased by Ken Wright, a desperate tackle, and he put it down. And that may, as I say, have sealed a position in the quarterfinals for South Sydney. And a shot at the big $111,000 golden pot. A clean heel for Penrith. Maybe it wasn't a heel. Who'll ever know? Mario Fennick is off for South. I see that Lou Platts now comes across ground. I was just looking to pick up the replacement for Fennick. It's Mike Carberry. Well, who's hooking now? Rod Wright is tackled on the South 22. It's not going to make much difference to South if they've got a hooker or not, because they're trailing in the scrums 13-8. So Billy Anderson has decided, I'll put one of my hot shot forwards into the game and throw the scrums out the back door. Levy's bomb is well out over the dead ball line. So it'll come out for a 22 place kick restart, but that will barely have time to happen. 7 or 8 seconds of time remaining in the third quarter. There's Mario Fennick coming from the field. Michael Carberry, when I get a close-up of him in the fourth quarter, you'll see is wearing a very heavy strapping on his left leg. South's 5 still running, as you can see, from right to left as Kevin Pobji is asked to bring it out again. A busy night tonight, Pobji. He's fluctuated from wing to centre and to points closer to the ruck on occasions. Rod Wright plays it now. Bringing it away is Tim Sheens. Simmons running it now.
And I should imagine their coach Johnny Peard would have insisted on the Penrith players controlling the ball better in this final 20 minutes and get into a position where they can put some pressure on the South Sydney line, because they haven't done that now since way back in the second quarter. Apart from that one opportunity down there when Podgy got away.
Which was made by this man about to play at Warren Fenton, about whom I was about to say, gee, he's a good footballer.
He is, but he hasn't been involved as much in this evening's game as we've come to expect from him. He is a very talented player, and it's only on occasions that he has really produced the classy type of football that we, as I said earlier, that we have come to expect.
So Penrith now seeing South Sydney territory for, I suppose, one of the few times in the 22 minutes that they've had the breeze behind them.
Yeah, I'd like to see Platts coming a lot straighter than what he's been coming this evening. Right? He's been tending to crab across the field a bit and looking to come up off the legs of Foster and Fenton, but you know, maybe he should be coming more up the middle now.
So here's Sheens now, looking to switch it left, and now he's put to ground by Gary Metcalf. But Sheens, you know, there's been a lot of criticism made of some of the Penrith plays and the way they've managed to put it down. But he's been one of their sounder players, Tim Sheens. Mark Levy plays it. Brad Waugh runs it to the blind, about 26 metres out from the south line. That's where we're at, in front of the Robinson stand. Levy, the bomb. It's not going to cause much pressure for South. It went straight up and down. Penrith have got the ball back, and that'll be the end of 6. And this scrum about 18 out from the South line.
And an important one for Penrith too. This is the area where they have to mount their attack from, I feel, if they are going to win this game.
Foster thought that might have been it. I thought that might have been Domino. Hambley is hooking for South. Platts pulled down by Greg Mackey. Pobji 3 metres out from the line. Penrith now looking to ensure a quarter-final spot. It could be coming. Tim Sheens will play it 5 metres from the line. Simmons, a long ball to Foster. Held by Coleman. That man going underneath is Mike Carberry. Look at the strapping on his leg, would you? Carberry, he's really taped up like Cardigan Bay. Fenton, a metre from the line. My goodness, what was trumps there from Sesson? To use an Australiana. What was trumps there? I'll let you answer the question because I can't.
Yes, I thought he was away. The gap was there and he accelerated through it. It was only a last-ditch tackle.
Dan, 3 metres out. 5-3, South leading. 4 minutes gone, final quarter. Fenton. A bad pass for Levy. It punctuated the attack. Held by Gary Hambley. Lou Platts will run it. That's him with it now. Taken about 3 metres from the line. Squadrito, one tackler. Arneal the other. Simmons, he's lost it. And forced by South, but he'll rule on the first breach, will he? No, he's indicated a South's force of the ball and a line dropout.
Yes, and of course that suits Penrith now because at least they get the opportunity of getting possession back and they start to mount their attack. It was unfortunate that final pass went away with the try line open, but they are controlling the ball better in this period.
Ken Wright with the dropout. Not a good one, not much depth, although the bounce beat Jackson and it's turned out to be a beauty. He may as well have kicked it 65 or 70 metres on the fly. Rod Wright through Wolf. This is Jackson. Tackle on the halfway. This is where South want to play them. Here and further backwards. Dan. Fenton. This Coleman has done a lot of work tonight. He sometimes goes unnoticed. Only because he's that short that he's below the level of the grass. He's so tiny. Levy to play it now. 15 into South territory. Foster. Up goes Tim Sheens again. Danzy ruling South back on the 5. Foster again. Shaping to kick and then taken by Greg Mackey. And a penalty. Well, here's a chance for Penrith to equalise. Greg Mackey not getting off the man tackled. Henry Foster, as South send a replacement into the game. Their number 16 is Michael Marcoux. That's him in 16. And coming off is Peter Tunks, but here's a chance now for Kevin Dan to take a penalty shot to level the situation. Tunks off for the Rabbits, and he's having trouble finding the exit. I'm not knocking Kevin Dan when I say this, but I wouldn't have been surprised if they had have given this kick to Mark Levy. Dan, 32 metres out. He's missed it, I think. Yes. No, he's got it. By golly, that must have been close to the upright. Maybe the head-on camera captured it. 5-all, Souths and Penrith. Penalties favouring Penrith. 10-9 at the moment. A drawn result, of course, will almost certainly see both teams in the quarters. 3 points would be the final countdown for them from one win and a draw. I still would like to see the head-on shot of that goal if I can, and I'm sure the viewers would too. I just fancy that it might have been out of camera's range or out of shot, and that's what my director's telling me now. So I can do no more than apologise, but our cameramen, I believe, rank with the best in the world, and it's not always possible to get everything that a commentator might want. Penrith with Jackson tackled. Well, 5 points all. I want to relay a small conversation that I had with a Tooth's steward before the match tonight. He said, "Who are you tipping?" I said, "South." I said, "Who are you tipping?" He said, "Penrith." I said, "Well, that means it's got to be a draw because neither of us have tipped a winner for 5 weeks." And there they are at 5 points all.
I've still got my doubts whether it'll be a draw. I wouldn't be surprised to see one of the teams notch a field goal, either Kenny Wright or someone like Mark Levy for Penrith.
Podgy.
Certainly the opportunity, I'm sure, will be there for both teams to at least have a go at one.
Michael Patterson is one of 5 South Sydney players repping this weekend. It's not Michael's first cap, is it? Michael is in a position, he might as well answer the question. Michael, is this your first rep spot?
Yes, Ray, it is the first rep spot. I got selected last year in the State of Origin, but I missed out through illness.
You've missed a couple of important appointments in life through illness, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right, Ray.
Mike, these boys are putting up a gutsy performance out there tonight.
Yeah, it's a very heavy defensive game here, Ray. Both sides are putting a lot of effort in defence, and as you can see by the score, 5-all.
You know what the scrum count is against you?
No, I'm not quite sure. It'd be fairly high, wouldn't it?
16-8.
Yeah, I assumed it'd be fairly high.
Well, how do you feel coming up to your first representative fixture?
Oh, I was actually quite nervous, Ray. I don't normally get nervous, but I went up for the medical on Tuesday, and just getting into the cricket ground amongst all those international players, and that made me fairly nervous. I don't think I'll be looking forward to having a big game anyway, but I'll just have to see what happens.
On behalf of all in league, to all the Rabbits and to all the rep players, have a good game, eh?
Thanks very much, Ray.
Thanks for talking to me, Mike.
Pleasure.
Here's Warren Fenton weaving up to the 22 line. That's the end of 6, and here's another scrum to go down in the pressure zone for South.
Yes, and this is probably the most fatal scrum of the game, because if Penrith do get possession from this one, well, I'd be very surprised if they didn't work themselves into a position to attempt a field goal.
Foster.
And they've come up with possession.
Goodness gracious, this Simmons has won some ball. What's wrong there with that South Sydney scrum? Somebody once said maybe the hooker hasn't got any legs, but who is the hooker there now? We're told Hambley hooked for one, Rampling for another, and now Marcoux is hooking. Maybe it was meant for Marcoux to go into the game originally when the hooker was brought off, and not Carberry. That couldn't possibly happen, though, surely. Dan, the shot for goal! Yes, he's got it! Penrith leading by 6-5. Well, here's the replay of that drop goal. This time it's within camera's range, and you just take it for granted. There's no doubt about that being a goal.
No, he took it very well, Kevin Dan, under a fair amount of pressure too, because the South Sydney defence got up quickly. They were watching for Mark Levy as well as Kevin Dan, but Penrith knew the player that was going to take the shot at field goal, and he took it exceptionally well.
He's got an ankle injury too, I think, Kevin Dan. He's still rubbing away at, well, not an ankle, but his right knee. This boy's played well for Penrith. I realise he dropped that important pass, or he dropped the ball when tackled by Ken Wright that could have seen him score a try, but he's got himself involved, Kevin Podgy. It's been a...
Yeah, I wouldn't be too critical.
It's been a Newtown winners type performance.
Yeah, I wouldn't be really critical of Podgy on that occasion. Obviously, Jackson was the player lurking up on the inside, and maybe Jackson yelled for the ball, and Podgy took the gamble because he didn't actually lose it. He attempted to turn it back in field. And, of course, if it had come off, well, everyone would have said what a great piece of play.
South leading, Penrith leading 6-5, keeping in mind that if South can work it back anywhere into a close region, they too have a dead-eye Dick in their side as far as dropping field goals is concerned. Kenny Wright. Tony Peters keeps some statistics for us right through the year, does a darn good job. And he tells me South's made 150 tackles in the first half. I'm sure he didn't count them all himself, but you'll find that it's accurate. That's a lot of tackles to make in 40 minutes of football. Even your brother couldn't do that, Tone. Danny Loftus now. 5 metres out from the 22. Can the Rabbits work it back? Carberry, look at that leg, would you? It's bandaged up. It's almost as though it's in plaster still. Dean Rampling. 6-5, the Panthers in front. 8 minutes from the full-time hooter. They made the cup final in '74. That's play on for South and 6 more.
They must work it out of this area. Metcalf passing for Squadrito to flick it across to Brown, who dances in field and creates a man on the outside unmarked. He soon was, though. Shane Arneal. Michael Carberry's been out for 4 weeks. This is his first game back after damaging knee ligaments. He's had some shocking injuries, Carberry, this year. He was one of South's leading lights about 4 weeks ago. I saw him taken off in a match. There he is with the ball now. He had a gaping wound there in a match that South played in. You'd almost think he needed a transfusion. So much blood did he lose. South sending another replacement out. In number 18, it's David Boyle going out. So obviously, Billy Anderson is trying everything he knows to try and get some ball. Dean Rampling's off from prop. There's the South's coach, flanked by Michael Patterson. And there's Rampling leaving the field. This will be another Penrith scrum win. Well, it was behind their second row. I think Souths have got it. They have. It's a miracle scrum win. And that can only be put down to bad second row work by Penrith. It was won by their hooker back into the second row, and the second rowers sort of looked at it as though it was a Sunday dessert or something. They looked at it as though it wasn't very important. It was so clear on camera. Ken Wright plays it now. 9 metres on the Penrith side of halfway. Coleman unloading for Loftus. Beautiful tackle, hard. The tackler was Royce Simmons, who's played a major part in this Penrith lead of 6-5.
He's worked extremely well, hasn't he, beside dominating possession for his side.
Loftus is the dummy half. And this is Coleman. A kick taken by... Oh, put down by Ken Wolfe. And another scrum just inside the Penrith 22. Well, if ever South wanted to win a scrum in a KB Cup match, this surely must be it.
That was a bad mistake by Wolfe because it wasn't a difficult one. Certainly he was under a little bit of pressure, but I think he must have taken his eyes off the ball, had a quick look.
Danzy wants it again. Who's hooking this time? It is Marcoux, isn't it? But again, Simmons has won the scrum. Well, Ken Wright is probably, at the moment, biting his fingernails, saying, for goodness sake, give me the ball, give me a chance, I'll drop for goal from anywhere. But the good news is if they can hold Penrith to 6-5, the Rabbits almost certainly would make the quarterfinals anyway. Simmons. He's that confident now as the hooker. He just wants them to play it short and safe and work it out and go into a scrum contest. Kevin Dan working blind. Coleman, the little halfback, he's tackled his stomach out. Don't forget Big League available at the newsagents tomorrow morning. That's the official program of the New South Wales League. It's got all the data that you need for all the weekend's games and more from leading league writers. Danzy's called them up for another important scrum contest. A penalty to South, a differential. Incorrect feed Foster. 18-9 the scrum count. 10-10 the penalties now. So what about in the old days? If this was one of those matches to be decided by the old cup countback, wouldn't this be a spine tingler? Hambley. Now, where's Kenny Wright? He's deep. Just outside camera's range. Just outside the 22. They'll wedge it towards center ground. Setting up right. There it goes. He's got the drop in. It's a goal. Oh, so sweet. Beautifully executed. A minimum of effort, but a maximum of execution, as a Mr. Gibson would say at Parramatta.
Yeah, certainly perfectly, wasn't it? Under a lot of pressure also, and but he's been in that position before in Rugby Union International, so there wasn't a great deal of pressure for Kenny Wright. Straight over the black dot, levelled the score up, and No, of course, there's, what, a few minutes remaining.
This man is David Boyle. Tackled 10 out from his own line.
Actually, a draw would probably be a real good result, wouldn't it? Because neither team has done enough, really, to win the game. And both teams have had their opportunities. So I think a draw would be a fair result.
Well, finding the National Panasonic Electronic Sales and Rentals Man of the Match is a job that falls upon the pressmen and we commentators. And tonight, I'm blowed if I know who we're going to give it to. Mackey clearing. Wolf dropping it. He's had an unhappy time in the last 5 minutes. Carberry chases and he beats him. Played by Foster. I'm wondering how many of these 26 players out there at the moment, or for that matter, those people sitting on the benches in official capacities, realize that a draw, and I must say this in all probability, will take them both to the quarterfinals. And still an equal opportunity for a crack at that beautiful tooth's money. That play is just outside the South 22. They'll set themselves for another drop goal, probably. Here's Kevin Dan. Beautifully blotted down by Greg Mackey. Well, South, you know, as much as you can sit here and maybe heap praise on certain Penrith players, to think that they've had a 18-9 scrum deficit, gee, you've got to take your hat off to these South Sydney players. They've tackled and tackled some more. Tony Peters reports 150 tackles in the first half. But here's this differential for Penrith. Well, they're taking it, they're giving Kevin, well, I thought for a moment Kevin was going to try and kick it from 35 metres out. Why the name of goodness
why would
they
he
would
do that?
I don't know why they wouldn't have found touch, taken the tap, taken the
Just
tap,
run
and,
straight across field.
but they could have taken the kick for line, found touch, then taken the tap and maybe fed it back then for Kevin Dan to have a 25-metre shot at goal. No drama. But they just...
He could have got done within 10 or 15 yards from the line with the breeze behind him and from where he was.
Anyway, it's Tim Sheens with the ball now. 12 metres out from the South line. Well, what the name of hell's happened here? He's ruled that he's lost it getting up. The siren has sounded, and Jack Danzy has called it a night. 6-6 the final scoreline.
That's Friend's ball. Charging ahead, Gavin Jones.